Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 130, and we time slip through the beginning of Loki Season 2. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back. I don't know why I made that one sound like I was taking a poop. Yeah.
No. I say that in the morning on the toilet. Not to gentlemen.
Hello. Intestinal remnants.
Whoa.
Yo, people who are in public bathrooms, like, heavy grunting, like, I don't get it, man. Like, that's a lot.
They don't care. It's like, look, these are strangers. What the strangers gonna do?
That's worse, though. I don't know. Like,
say? You'll never see those people again. You worry too much about what strangers think.
True.
If I'm in a
what
public,
about office bathroom?
That's different because I gotta see those dogs. I gotta see them people I gotta see them people more than once.
I know those shoes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's some fresh
Why?
kicks. Jones,
why don't
you?
American bathrooms go all the way to the floor? Unclear.
Money.
Sound like Yoda.
Point is, I'm at work is, I'm gonna have some reservations and be strategic, but this is like this is a public restroom, which I'm not saying that's my first option, but I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna see
at
you
our
again.
school. The staff restrooms are like single person, single use or whatever. But you gotta sometimes there's like only two per like area, and then you gotta like walk across the school to a different part to use other bathrooms. So sometimes people will just like wait because they're like, oh, one of these bathrooms will open up. Bro, I hate it when like I've taken a dump and then like I'm leaving and someone is ready to like hop right in. I'm like, oh, there's no like air freshener in there or anything for them, folks. Like they're taking the full weight of it.
It's a show. Think of it as a show of dominance. Like, yeah, whoa, there was some real work was done back there. Enter at your own risk.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, you just gotta own it.
Big dog doing big stuff. Sorry.
Just give him a point and a wink. Move on.
I try and do the what is it?
Bully McGuire.
What is it called where you
The
go and you
McGuire.
flush like immediately so the smell doesn't linger. I try and do that, but it's
I ain't got time for
Courtesy
that.
flush?
But I don't know that it works.
I ain't got time for that. B, you get what you get.
All right, let's talk about Loki. The MCU is back. It's actually been not that long, right? We were at Secret Invasion. We'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to ask you guys, remind the listeners, how did you feel about Loki season 1? Brian, where were you on Loki season 1?
Love Loki season 1. Oh my goodness. I know we have some detractors here, but I thought Loki season 1 was probably the best of the MCU TV shows, at least in the Disney Plus era, because it just had great set pieces, great directing, great production design, great acting, and a really interesting mystery that was going on.
How did you feel about season 1?
Very creatively ambitious,
but
a little too absurdist for my own taste, and that kind of just broke my suspension of disbelief a few times. But it wasn't a bad show.
Wasn't for you.
But I felt like it was just a little too off the wall, and for me, moments that felt a little corny, if not cheesy. But I thought the acting and set pieces were all very well done. It was just like the underlying premise was just something that it was a little hard for me to engage and connect with.
I feel like Sav is trying to say
Wow.
like that was some white people shit right now, but like without saying
That's
it.
not what I said. That's not what I said. Hey, do not project that onto me.
That's
not
what
what
the
I
undertones I was
said.
getting there. That's
Wow, Wesley.
Yeah, the call's coming from inside the house. Don't do that to me.
all right. I was more along the lines of Brian. I really enjoyed season 1. And just I thought they did a phenomenal job. I loved Tom Hiddleston's performance. I really thought Jonathan Majors' performance was really great. I don't know how much we need to talk about Jonathan Majors' ongoing legal issue. Like we're not sure. Yeah, there just hasn't been a whole lot that's come out about it. So hopefully that works out okay for everybody involved. But if it doesn't, that sucks too. All right. So season 2, spoilers will now be in the pod because we're going to talk about the first few episodes. There's been 3 released. Savon has seen 2, I've seen 3, and Brian has seen 3. After the train wreck, and I think we can call it that even in hindsight, like there was just a huge train wreck of Secret Invasion. Just nothing made sense. waste of all kinds of reveals. The visuals were off. The storytelling was really inconsistent. Kind of a really put off, I think, for MCU and Disney Plus. How are you feeling going into Loki? Brian, how are you feeling kind of at this point in time? So even with the context
in terms of
and even in terms of like enjoying season 1, how did you feel? Like, what's your excitement level now, knowing that like in this day and age, Marvel is not a guarantee to put out a good show?
Were they ever guaranteed to put out a good show?
No, people just have
questionable.
People they were never guaranteed to put out a good
S.H.I.E.L.D.?
movie. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was good in the beginning.
It was up and down.
But that wasn't.
Do you remember Iron Fist?
But those weren't Marvel Studios, like the current iteration of Marvel Studios.
But
since WandaVision, I'm thinking about like since WandaVision.
Yeah, Disney Plus, MCU television.
Stop messing with the mic.
We've had a lot. We've had a lot of TV series since then, and some are good, some are bad, some are all over the place. Some feel like homework that I'm watching for you guys, and it's it runs the gamut of television quality, I would say. But that's not to say that I am fatigued by it necessarily. I think, I read a lot of stuff in the media news that say like consumers are fatigued by superhero stories and the MCU does not necessarily know where it's going and Disney's trying to pull back on their production. I don't necessarily feel like I'm done with Marvel content. But I'm of course the choir on this one. But I am welcome to new attempts, like finding new things to talk about. There are always new characters. And so coming into Loki season 2, I got to be honest, I didn't remember Loki season 1 all that well coming into it. I needed my memory jogged just because there's been so much stuff to come out between now and then. But feeling excited generally, not feeling fatigued.
I wouldn't say I was fatigued, but I was not as willing. I think the general arc of the shows and many of the movies has sort of been trending downwards for me in terms of like how into them I've been. I think, there was kind of the height of like what we'd consider right now, maybe like the height of the MCU, which was, there was a string of movies, maybe Iron Man 3 notwithstanding, where they really hit quite a few home runs with movies from like Winter Soldier to, and Iron Man 3 isn't as bad as I think we remember it to be, but it's not great. We have Thor Ragnarok in there. We have Guardians of the Galaxy parts 1 and 2 in there, or volume 1 and 2 in there. There was kind of a string of movies that really I enjoyed a ton, and Black Panther was in there. Right, like where you're really expecting hits, and then they come out with Infinity War and then Endgame, and that's a pretty strong stretch of like, oh damn, like these are really fun movies to watch, and we got a lot out of them as the audience. And I think since then, we've gotten movies that are just not as good, and shows that are not as good, and they've just sort of been like trending downwards. And it's easy to say it's trending downwards when like Secret Invasion is the last thing you're looking at, right? Like that's a very low point in terms of like how not good that show was. So I think mine is not so much that I'm fatigued of superheroes. It's I am fatigued of shows that are progressively seeming to get worse and worse and worse and worse over time. And maybe feeling like maybe Marvel has in some ways, maybe through brain drain, maybe through tiredness on their end, maybe through their own production schedules, whatever, all the things going on are struggling now to find, the stories in these characters that are meaningful and powerful and really engaging in the same way. And then able to put them onto screen in a way that like really makes sense. So coming into the Loki, I've just sort of been like, I'm excited for Loki because it's Loki. Like I thought season 1 was really good, but not as excited as I think I would have been had a couple of the previous things not come out in the shape that they came out. Sav, where are you coming into season 2, knowing especially that you weren't really all about season 1?
Savon is either a really bad poker player or Wes. Everything that you say just gets him.
He's making faces. This is true. I couldn't look at the screen. I would have been too distracted.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying, just to what you said before, Wes, Marvel people have very short memories in that we really do overlook the mediocre Marvel movies that came out even early on. The first Captain America movie wasn't bad, but people were not doing backflips over it. They clearly had, like, Cap was not a popular character in his first movie. It wasn't until later that he became the fan favorite. Thor 1 and 2 were both just... Thor 1 was man. Thor 2 was bad. Iron Man 2 wasn't that amazing. Iron Man 3 was bad. Ant-Man had mixed reviews. Like, this is just me giving a counterpoint to the old MCU has been on the downswing. I think it's more so just we remember the bad more recently than the bad in the past. Almost like how you don't remember the one-hit wonders from, the bad music from 30 years ago because all the good stuff is what people remember.
Yeah, Ricky Martin, Livin' La Vida Loca, bro.
Because I'll even say with the more recent Marvel movies, Black Panther was good, Guardians was good, Spider-Man was good. It's easy to get caught up on let the Thor, Love and Thunders, and even the mediocrity of Ant-Man overlook. Hey, we had some movies come out that were absolute bangers. So that's why I was making faces. As far as Loki,
I think it's a percentage thing, though, right? And a frequency thing. A lot of the shows have been weak, which is a great amount. Like, in terms of how much you're spending time with it, that's a lot of the time that we're spending with these mediocre shows. Black Widow wasn't very good. I didn't enjoy Doctor Strange. I know you guys did, but Doctor Strange wasn't a tight
that was
story.
Just a wrong opinion you had.
Captain the Winter Soldier has had issues. Falcon and Winter Soldier. In terms of if I'm looking at the current let's say the run, if you're doing a running average, right, of how much enjoyment I got out of MCU movies over the past 3 or 4 years, 3 years maybe, it's the average is a little bit lower than it would have been had you taken that same running average on the stretch from 2014 or 2015 to 2019 when Endgame hits. So I think there's yes, what you're saying is right. We have a bias towards whatever the current narrative is. And I think it's also fair to point out, we're not used to Marvel missing on so much of their stuff.
That is a topic for a different podcast. I will just say, when it comes to Loki, I feel the same way I've been felt. It's that Loki had its moments. I think the basic premise and stuff, there's moments where I'm like, oh, this is cool, and other moments where I'm like, this feels like a convoluted mess. And feels very complicated for the sake of being complicated and annoying to follow. And that hasn't... And then I still very much have the very same critique of the TVA just being a bunch of humans with this whole old school vibe, aesthetic setting. It just doesn't vibe.
It's so cool.
I love it.
To me, it just feels cheesy. It feels cheesy. Just seeing these people who are supposed to be beyond time dressed as 70s office workers with that vibe and aesthetic.
Because it's timeless. That look is timeless, Savon.
Hard disagree. But so my main feelings about the show haven't really shifted. I got through the first 2 episodes, and again, there are moments where I'm like, oh, this is cool, and other moments where I'm like, ugh, I am really struggling to stay engaged right now. And so maybe that'll change when I watch more of episode 3, but it feels like Loki, for better and for worse, is more of what season 1 was, which if you liked it is good, but if you're someone like me who wasn't wild about it, it's like, okay, well, unless they shake something up drastically, which I don't anticipate they will, but I could be wrong, I'm going to keep feeling the way I felt. I'll watch it, I'll finish it, but like I'm very aware of what I don't like about the show, and that can be sometimes make the show a bit of a tough watch when I'm going through portions I'm not a fan of, because I know exactly what I don't
Interesting.
like.
Yeah, I think you're going to keep getting more of the same, because the show knows what it wants to be, which is like one of its strengths, is that like it's not trying to be all things to all people, right? Like this show is very clearly like, I'm trying to do this. The show wants to sound like this and look like this and be like this, and like, you know, they're going to do the time heist, they're going to do the running, the chase scenes, you know, they're going to do all of that stuff, and then they're going to do the like quippy stuff between, you know, Mobius and other people, because that's Owen Wilson's strength. So let's get into the show. Season 2 so far, episodes 1, 2, or 3. Have you had, or what has been your favorite moment so far of season 2? For me, I've really enjoyed OB. Whenever he shows up, I'm just like, this is kind of funny. Like, he just like does these random quirky things and like says these random quirky like things, and I'm just like, oh, that's really funny. But he also, I think there's more, like, you get a sense that there's actually maybe more going on under the surface. Like, he's the one who wrote the guidebook. Like, how did he write the guidebook? Like, what was his position in the TVA that he was able to do that? And like, maybe he's like the one that actually controls all of it. I don't know. That actually doesn't seem like that's true, but maybe, I don't know. Who knows? And then there's a moment, I think in episode 1, maybe episode 2, where Loki and Mobius are connecting over some key lime pie, and Loki's being a good friend.
Awful pie, by the way.
D tier.
Key lime is an abomination.
That's a last choice pie. That's like,
that means someone ate all the other pies.
Maybe that's a thing, though. Maybe is that a universal take? I feel like I've heard that key lime pie is not people's favorite.
There's a reason why if there's ever a pie sampler or a pie platter, that if you're the one who comes late or wants to eat at the end, that's all.
And this I don't know, area they were eating in was like a vending machine full of pies, and all of them were key lime pie. So, you know, the TVA isn't necessarily the best judge of taste, I guess, and which is kind of what they're trying to say. Yeah.
That tracks. That tracks.
I think that's symbolic.
Now that's an accurate take about Loki.
Well, if Kang started the TVA, maybe, and he's a villain,
maybe that's why
he's gonna choose a bad pie.
So
he just went up in the MCU.
But, you know, and I love the like quippiness between the two of them. Like, I think they're really funny. I think their chemistry is like off the charts. Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson as Loki and Mobius. But in this moment that I'm thinking of, where they're eating this key lime pie, it's actually really genuine. Loki is being a good friend. He's pushing his friend to say, like, you're not fulfilling your potential if you're just going to put your head in the sand and act like an ostrich here. Like, there's more out there. Like, maybe there's more out there. Maybe we don't know, but like, I would be remiss if I didn't push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone here. And I thought just the acting, the writing, like that whole moment, just everything felt like it really worked in that scene. So that was a standout. I thought they did a really good job constructing that scene, and then the actors pulled it off in a really great way. So if you haven't seen if you haven't seen season 2 yet, make sure you check that out. I think that scene really is kind of it's a really important for me, because I'm like, oh, that like gives the story heart rather than just the like the time heist kind of things that are going on around us. But like, there's actually like a center here of a connection, you know, so which is important, I think, in a show about characters that we're seeing here in the MCU. All right, Brian, have you had a favorite moment? Actually, I should go to Sav first, because he might just say I have no favorite moments. Sav, have you had a favorite moment so far in season 2?
The credits.
Oh my god, y'all acting like I'm hating on the show.
It sounds like
I'm not
eating
dumping
like
on it. I'm
boiled
its
broccoli
praises.
that's been like way overcooked, and you're like, I'll eat it because I know I'm supposed to. Okay.
No, I've made multiple points to acknowledge things that the show has done well. Y'all just ignore that.
Negativity
and y'all just
bias.
only hit a negative.
Again, meta.
Right?
Meta.
This is like what we just were talking about.
What do you got?
Anyways, Loki using his powers. Loki, the character, has a really fun power set. The illusion stuff, him being magic. One of my best season 1 moments was him breaking down in like D&D nerd level details the difference between creating illusions and duplications and clones. And it's like, hey, one is an illusion. Another is like a copy of me that's physically in a certain space. Like, he has a fun power set. So when they were chasing down your boy Brad for the interrogation, and he's just doing the shadow power stuff and making the clones, and he makes the group of like the little English hooligans who start bullying him, and then he sets them all to like factory reset when he's messing with your boy. And even Mobius says the shadows feel like a little bit much, huh?
With the
He has
horn.
the shadows grow his horns, and just it's so. And I'm watching it like this is so extra, and I love it because that's some very Loki type stuff to do. But again, to your point of the chemistry between him and Mobius saying, it's a little bit much, huh? He's like, I think it's kind of clean. It reminds me of almost like you and I talking about, Savon, did you need to do all that extra flexing? I'm like, yes, I kind of did. A topic that has been tried and true with us for years at this point of being practical versus over showmanship. But yeah, Loki has a fun power set. So one of the strengths of the show is that there's so many different versions of Loki we got to see. And we can see different manifestations of that power set. But watching our Tom Hiddleston Loki just do vintage Loki stuff is always really fun. You can have a lot of fun with his abilities on screen, combined with his mischievous personality.
I actually forgot about that moment.
So I definitely hope we get more of that. I was sitting there like, yeah, this is tough. I like this. Because you could tell Loki was having fun. He clearly went into like mini boss mode. He just started bullying Obo with his powers, and I'm like, yeah, take the weights off, turn up on him, Loki. You're sick of shit.
So season 2 is a continuation of season 1. It's very directly. It's just like right afterwards, we're pretty much kind of thrown into it. And for those of you who maybe don't remember and aren't worried about spoilers, the basic premise is like Kang, or it's not Kang, it's a variant of Kang, right? He who remains has been killed, and without him there to make sure everything is going well, and the TVA to make sure everything is going like according to plan, that the multiverse is sort of in chaos because there's a lot of variants showing up, there's a lot of branches being made, and these branches sort of can kind of like fold in on each other or end up coming together, or like multiple Kangs can start to come about and start causing other problems where they can like jump between, and start to cause a lot of collapses here and incursions. And the TVA hasn't had to deal with something like this because they've always had He Who Remains behind the curtain, pulling the strings and making sure everybody's doing what they need to keep the sacred timeline together. And there's this thought, right, that's going on, or this kind of explicitly said thing, which is like every time they do what they're supposed to do, which is to destroy these branches, all of the people living on these branches die, right? Effectively, right? If they had souls, which they probably do, they're extinguished, and so they no longer are there, and so it's basically murder and genocide or whatever you want to call it, right? And so these
minus the Lakers fans in different timelines,
the TVA,
that's just mercy killing.
But yes, Wes, continue.
hey,
yeah, it's just like, okay, cool. That's
the TVA. Yeah, so the TVA doesn't know what to do about this, right? They're stuck in this right pickle, or this box of, hey, if we do things that will save most of the, a lot of the universe and all of the timelines, we have to get rid of some of the timelines. And that's a very like, it's a great quandary to be in terms of television and movies, because it's like, well, the thing you're trying to do, which is save lives, involves killing lives, and that puts everybody in a weird, ethical space, and that leads to a lot of different ways you could solve that problem or not solve the problem, as the case may be. So I wanted to ask you guys personally, everybody in the show has a slightly different take, except Mobius and Loki. They're pretty much on the same page. Everybody else kind of has a slightly different take on what needs to happen or how it should be done. Is there anybody so far you've heard where you're like, that seems like the plan I would go with personally? Maybe it won't be the most successful, but that's the one that I would go with personally. For me, like, I wouldn't go with Sylvie's plan. Sylvie's plan of like, I'm just going to annihilate every Kang variant as they come makes sense only up until the point when like she knows for a fact that all of the multiverses coming together is going to destroy everything, and then there is nothing, right? And so I don't agree with Sylvie's plan at all, even if I understand like why she would do it that way, and there's a justification for it. But I think, me personally, and maybe this is just the show manipulating me, like I feel like I'm on Loki's plan. I support his idea around like, let's just buy some time. We've got to save this, like prevent everything from collapsing on itself. And then maybe there'll be a solution that presents itself as we go. And I'm not on Mobius's plan of like, let me shove my head in the sand and not know anything. So that's where I'm at. But that's me personally. Sav, where are you at? Or do you agree with none of them? Would you have a different way of looking at this?
Nah, I don't really have a take about the larger conflict of the show. I'm going to be honest. The stakes of this show are a little too high and too abstract for me to really meaningfully connect to. And, you know, Marvel had this issue in the past. People talked about the previous movies of every movie doesn't have to be about saving the world. When the world is always in danger, you know that the world's going to get saved. And so it's hard for you to be invested in the stakes of that. And so, you know, right, even with the movies, some of the better Marvel movies were ones that had a smaller, tighter, smaller conflict because you can have a great movie and not have it to be about saving the world or saving existence. So to me, the conflict of the show being we have to stop, all of existence essentially from collapsing is such a large abstract concept that it's hard for me to connect to the stakes because I know that the worst case scenario isn't really going to happen. And even the worst case they decided in season 2 of, the Sacred Line, all these branching universes, I still haven't really seen the negative ramifications of that. So I'm fairly neutral in terms of what the solution to this is going to be. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I'm kind of just along for the ride in that, I see people's different interpretations and takes. I don't feel strongly favoring one over the other. I'm just going to enjoy the ride to see what new information do we uncover, what twists, what plot, things that we know are going to happen at some point that maybe shifts how we see this conflict. Because what we know now, obviously, is not the full scope of what is going on and what the solution is. So me trying to take a side now feels premature and kind of irrelevant to why I'm watching the show in the first place. But even the scene when General Dox and them were bombing all those timelines and they're supposed to be said, oh my God, those are billions. I'm like, I get it. But these are just lines on like a Tron screen just kind of fading away. That made me like knowing that, okay, I get what they're going for, but it's just hard for me to be invested in the conflict. So I don't really have a strong preference one way or another. I just want to see how this plays out, to see how things shift, how people change their mentalities. This is definitely going to be a friends become enemies, enemy becomes friends as we find out more type of show. So I'm just kind of here for like the journey. I don't really care about the destination. I care about the journey getting there. Because no matter what, they're not going to let all of existence and time in every universe ever collapse. So I just want to see how we get
to plot armor. Or no,
journey,
universe
not the
armor.
Destination.
Yeah. Wait, Brian.
So what? Journey, not the destination.
Brian, I'm sure you're on Miss Minute's side, right?
I mean, no, I'm actually with Savon on this. Like, Wes, while you were talking, I was like, what are you asking here? Like, do we even know everybody's different positions on this debate? Like, the show is kind of stuck, I would say, because of what Savon is saying about this like abstract notion about what the conflict and stakes are. And a lot of times people are just talking and you like, I, as an audience, have no idea what they're really talking about. It's all kind of mumbo jumbo fluff. We got to save the day. Right. And whatever that entails, like, I guess we're going to go do it. Like, I don't really have a full grasp on what's going on. I agree that Obi Ouroboros, Ki Hu Kwan's character was a really great fun character at the beginning. And as the show has progressed, every time he comes on to give some sort of weird exposition about what's going on with the plot, it's like, I mean, he might as well be, picking random words out of a Russian dictionary and saying it, and it wouldn't change what's going on in the show. And as for Sylvie, like, she completely does a 180. Spoiler. She balks on her own position in episode 3. So like. We don't like really fully understand what the way that she got there was important. Are.
He made her own argument against her.
I don't know.
Oh, so you mean the journey? So you mean the journey?
I don't know what's happening on this show. Is what I'm trying to say.
So get off your phone. Brian is just watching.
It's like Ant-Man. No, it's like Ant-Man when they say, "Do y'all just throw the word quantum in front of everything?"
Yeah.
Like, remember that when Scott literally said, "Do y'all just put the word quantum in front of everything?" It's like they're doing that, but just do y'all just put the word time and temporal in front of everything?
And basically, if the show had invested more time in characters, actual characters that you care about in different timelines, we would be having a very different discussion. If we saw all the other Kangs or something and them wreaking havoc, this would make a lot more sense. But we really don't have a full sense of what's going on in these timelines. And because they're just like random characters, like even the people that work for the TVA, like we don't know most of them. They're just like NPCs running about this kind of story and multiverse. So it doesn't feel real exactly. And so, yeah, in my opinion, like we're kind of just like jumping around and hoping for cool stuff to happen at this point.
I like the cool stuff that's happening.
Show me a universe actively getting destroyed, and maybe you can get me more invested in the stakes of it. But having it just be a bunch of lines on a screen, I'm like, this was meant to be what emotionally pulls me into the conflict, and that just fell on its face. Which that's why I really leaned into the journey, not the destination piece.
Yeah, I think what was working for this season in episode 1 and is now lost, sadly, was like the time slipping stuff with Loki himself. With Loki time slipping, which that was some of like the craziest VFX I've seen in a long time. Like it was just like really imaginative, really freaky, but really cool all at the same time. And I was legitimately worried about what was going on. And then it's resolved. That was the worst part. It's like, here's our main character. Here's the guy that we care about. He's struggling with this time slipping thing. He's going back and forth between all these different timelines. And I'm very concerned about that. And then the show resolves it almost immediately and moves on to this other conflict. And so I think for me, that's where season 2 is kind of failing, right? It's, it's just going, every episode feels very different from the previous one because the goal and objective is very different. And it's not letting us really care about the people involved who are, who have the most at stake, right? So like Loki's own stakes are now gone after episode 1. So the investment, for me at least, is waning.
Interesting. All right, I didn't realize you guys would be so down on it. Okay,
I'm not down on the show. I just know exactly what I like and don't like.
All right.
It's not a bad show.
This is now the where I get to pick your brains a little bit and see what's going on inside those little brains of yours. So Loki.
Little, my brain is big and rankled.
I got
yours is small and smooth.
All right, so Loki, when he gets back on the sacred timeline, which is the first time he's been allowed back on the sacred timeline, he gains back his powers. You already talked about that. He grows the shadow horns. He starts making copies of himself or some illusions, and he relishes them. He's like, yes, I am back to my full form. And now that we're getting older, me and Brian hitting the 40 mark, Savon, you're hitting the 30 mark. What is a power that you used to have that you'd love to get back? Because for me, it's my jumping ability. Now, I'm not going to claim that I used to have any kind of real jumping ability. It was... Yeah,
all cap,
but in high school,
hair.
I could touch the backboard. I could do certain things. Shut up! You're like 1.5 feet taller than me, bro.
Yeah, that's not fair, man. You're playing with a different deck.
This man was able to touch the backboard in 5th grade, but I could not. I could not. I was 4'11" or something in 5th grade. So. I'm just gonna keep going. There's some real heightism happening here. Fuck you.
All right,
so...
no.
So in high school, like I did volleyball. So we'd have to do workouts that like involve like just getting stronger in terms of that, being able to jump, learn techniques around jumping, blah, blah. So, I could jump higher. Now I pretty much like really reverted. I got like Jokic level hops. Like, it's a struggle to like
Couldn't
jump
clear a
more
phone
than,
book.
like maybe 2 stairs at a time on the staircase. Like we're talking, it's very limited. I can no longer touch the backboard. I'm barely getting the net, maybe, if I try real hard and like I've warmed up. So like I've lost a number of inches off the vertical here. So if I could
all 2 of them,
if I could go back and get, or if I could have some of my old powers back, this would be one that I'd love to. I'd love to just be able to jump again. I know you can work out and do it, like, but who has fucking time for that? Brian, what's a power that you used to have, but you would like to get back if you could, Loki style?
I've had many powers over my 4 decades.
All right.
And they're all used for the better.
Would the ladies agree?
3 9/10.
Oh, that's one power. I'm glad it's gone. But speaking of ladies, I think I would say in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Looking back at photos, I was kind of cute. I was like, that boy could get it.
You still cute. What you talking about? What you talking about? That boy Brian's still cute up in here. He got the swoopy hair, the nice little just mustache at the shit. What you talking about, Brian?
You making me blush, man.
You could definitely go out to the club, hit him with a draw, gonna be dropping left and right.
That was my game. That was my game.
Brian,
I was never going to a place that didn't
Brian
have a dance floor.
Blunts.
I just swag on them.
Panties at Brian.
That was my game. And then like I, to my own horn here, they came and talked to me. It was not the other way around. And as an aging guy who's happily married, who has been single, who has been in a relationship and not single for over 10 years, ooh, I will say there is a longing for the short bursts of confidence and ego that you get when some girl just looks across the room and is like, oh boy.
They admiring. They feel.
So did you say what your power would be? Is that your power? That you'd be you're young.
I'd be cute again. I'd be young and cute again. That like it's such a cliche thing to say for a middle-aged person. All right. Come on.
I'm like
who doesn't
over here
like that?
I want to touch the backboard, and Brian's like, I want to have all of my youth and vitality and
We're both asking for like the same thing, basically, just in different
that's true.
contexts.
I mean,
y'all both just want y'all youth
like
back.
We're wiser now, so we wouldn't want to go back to being less wise. So we got to talk about the physical things, the things that are deteriorating a little bit. All right, Sav, what do you got? What's your power you'd love to get back once you've reappeared on the sacred timeline?
Yeah, my optimism. Man, I think back at younger Savon, and I was like, man, I was a very optimistic, try and see the best in people type of person. Give everyone a fair shake. And I am not that person anymore. I think surface level I still can be, because it feels like that's what I want, model what you want to be. But I think my internal monologue has gotten exponentially more cynical in the last, I'm thinking back when I was 17, 18, 19. And I've seen how it's manifested in my political views and my worldview. And it's kind of like I feel wiser, but that wisdom doesn't make me happier.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, cool. I feel like I have this very enlightened take about these things now. I'm like, cool. I hate
it. What was young Savon optimistic about at 18?
I didn't realize the extent to which other people will consistently and purposely act in bad faith. And that was something that, I just thought, oh yeah, people, even though people aren't perfect, people have dumb views, but people aren't just out here being plain outright malicious. And I mean, there are people like that, obviously, but I just think as the years go by, you see it more and more. You see how it manifests. You see the lows to which people will stoop in order to advance themselves or get what they want. And I'm like, oh, people out here are really just like manic animals, just doing whatever their base instincts tell them to do or whatever get them ahead. And I'm like, oh, ugh. People kind of suck, because that's like the antithesis of how I view life in the world of trying to always grow and be better and be the best version of yourself and try to always be fair, even if it's not what immediately benefits you. But seeing so many people are the exact opposite is something that I'm like glad I know, but it doesn't make me a better or happier person. So if I could just erase all that and just kind of be that more optimistic younger me again, I would take that. Basically, I would take being a lot dumber if it meant being noticeably more chill and happy.
Those two things go hand in hand. Let me tell you,
ignorance is bliss. I've realized ignorance is bliss, and I kind of just wish I was a little more ignorant. Like young me was not dumb, but I was ignorant in some ways to where I got that bliss, and I would love to go back to that, because this ain't it. This ain't it. I'm very cynical.
So when you were talking about enjoying the journey, there's been a tough journey.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. Now, that's if we're going to go all existential. But if this makes y'all feel better, my knee, I've had a bad knee since I was like 18. So I never even got to have a real athletic prime. Even when I was athletic and working out and in the gym all the time, I always had knee problems. So I never really had hops. So if I go back in time, I'm not really going to be in noticeably better shape or better like body condition now than I was then, because I had knee surgery when I was 18. So like I had the D-Wade meniscus tear partial removal. So, I had the D-Wade surgery. So my knee's been popping and clicking since I was a teenager. So if that makes you feel any better about my digs towards y'all,
you're a coulda, woulda, shoulda,
hopefully
man.
That makes you feel better.
Like you're the Grant Hill on this pod. All the greatness that could have happened.
Yeah, except I was never an athlete. That's the worst part. I was a non-athlete who had a career-ending injury for a career I never even had. So it just sucks for regular everyday stuff. I can't just play pickup because now my knee feels like, I can feel my bones grinding against each other.
At least you can predict the weather.
Yeah.
All right. So it sounds like you guys are just sort of actually kind of so on Loki right now. Maybe it'll pick up for you guys. Maybe it won't. I was going to ask you to make a hot take about Loki season 2, but I feel like you've actually just given the hot take by saying that it's been pretty so far.
Well, we could do a hot take of what we think is going to happen.
My hot take.
Okay.
Yeah, my hot take is that the stakes of the show are what's going to be what holds it back. That's my hot take. The show's going to do a lot of things well, but just the larger conflict that's supposed to draw you in, I think, is going to struggle to stand up on its own, and that's going to detract from a bunch of other things that the show will do very well. Also, Sylvie is still like my least favorite character.
Hot take.
Okay, hot take.
Obi, as you were, you're kind of hinting at, like, oh, he wrote the handbook and whatever. What we've learned in episode 3, that handbook plays a very important role with He Who Remains. So we're gonna learn that He Who Remains does not become Kang just because he's a variant, but that there is something a little bit more sinister going on with Obi. Not because he is actually sinister, but he's also playing a part in this. He's a cog in the machine that is creating Kangs. That's what I think is going on.
Insurance policy or something. Ooh, I like that.
My hot take for Loki season 2. I don't have a hot take on this one. I'm just enjoying it so far. All right, I don't have a hot take on this.
You don't
one.
have to.
I will say the production design on this show is just miles away from like everything else. Like everything just like looks really good on Loki. So applaud them.
Some of the sets are a little bit small. That's about it. That's all. That's the only thing I would say.
You mean the TVA?
No, like when they're in the little like shanty town or like the shack area, it feels very small. Like they just kind of put it together, and then
because it's one street,
that kind of stuff. It's very and the shacks somehow don't look real. They still look a little bit fake. Like they didn't have quite enough time to weather them and make them look real and lived in. And then there was one other thing that was small. Oh, the train station.
It's also like the 1860s.
The train station where where General Docs was doing all of the coordinating of all of the pruning. That set felt like, okay, like we have this one stage to work with and that's it. And so we're not going to go outside of that. That's all. That's too small, minor critiques there. But I think you're right. Way better than all the way better than all the other production.
Prime West.
There's one superpower he has not lost. It's only increased.
Right? Wes will have that. Wes will have that power into the day. Wes will go to a McDonald's or a fast food joint and criticize the branding design on the bag and saying, I just don't like these color scheme on my bag, my food. I don't want to see a blue and yellow bag.
I mean, compared to Andor,
burger. Don't like it. Shut your face about
really
Andor.
Knocked it out the park
oh my
with
God.
Stuff like that.
You're like a Jehovah's Witness of Andor. You just have to be knocking at my door.
I am proselytizing Andor wherever I go.
Thank you. That's the word. Proselytizing. That's a good word.
All right. So that'll wrap us up there for Loki Season 2. I wanted to do before we get out of here, a quick little just teaser for Spider-Man 2. It released a couple days ago, PS5, exclusively on PS5. Yeah, we getting the web shooters out, the web grabbers. We're getting, I don't know. And what is that thing that like sends people up into the air? They've really been emphasizing that one. And we're getting Miles Morales and Peter Parker in the same video game with the symbiote coming into play at some point. I've only played like an hour or two. It's been a little bit tricky trying to watch Gen V and Loki and watch two kids and get ready for school. I'm going back to work on Monday.
You need a wall of screens.
Yeah,
that's it.
The real lack of time is getting me, and I'm pretty nervous about going back to school on Monday. So I'm trying to make sure everything's as good as I can possibly, like as prepared at least as I could possibly make it. But we'll see. So, anyways, I was gonna give Sav a minute here, literally 60 seconds, no more than 65 seconds. You've made your way through the game a little bit. You played a lot yesterday without giving spoilers. You got this 60 to 65 seconds max to give us your first impressions. I swear to God, I will just start humming over you if you go over time because we got to get out of here and end this pod. And I don't want to give away the whole chicken roost, before we actually get to the show. That's not the right idiom. What am I trying to say?
A little sample.
Give away
chicken
the
roost?
What are you giving away?
What are you talking about?
Giving away the whole shebang. The whole enchilada.
The whole enchilada?
Yeah, exactly. We're just giving you a little taster, and then we'll do our real review and impressions next show. Brian, you better buy this game. God damn it!
Pre-show you called it amuse-bouche.
Amuse-bouche.
Let it be known that Wes wasn't saying teaser or a little taste. He was saying amuse-bouche.
Amuse-bouche. A little
That's who we're working with
for us here. A little. What does it stand for? Isn't it like to amuse the mouth or make the mouth happy or something like that?
I don't know.
The literal translation.
I'm not cultured enough for that.
Anyways, we've now spent a minute and a half talking about a 60-second intro. So, Sav, take it away. You got 60 seconds. Hit us. What do you know about this video game now? Yeah,
so the new Spider-Man. I've been playing it, gotten solid ways into it. Not super deep into the story, but some good play time. Some of the main standouts about this game is the traversal has been very much upgraded. Previously, we all were fans of the swinging around the city. There's way more dynamic ways to swing around the city. I won't get into it too much because it's fun to kind of find out yourself, but you can get around New York way more quickly and more dynamic than you could before in ways where you can get even more lost in the web swinging. They've added new elements to the combat, such as a parry system. Before, you couldn't block, you could only dodge. Now there's new enemy types where you can't dodge, you have to block, so the combat's a little fancier. Miles and Peter get their own separate skill trees and a shared skill tree, so there's some fun universal Spider-Man, but they're really leaning into their unique abilities. And just the visual capacity of the game is very high, it's beautiful, it's fun and nice to look at, and it feels like a PS5 game in terms of its rendering and ability to have a lot on screen at once. Overall, everything good about the previous game, they've built on it intentionally. I'm having a great time. The full review is going to be a blast.
Ooh. Brian, are you intrigued? Do you want to buy it now?
I mean, I was always going to buy it, man.
He's just busy. He's just busy and got a backlog.
Yeah.
Well, but he said he was going to buy Mario something before he was going to buy Spider-Man.
Yeah, Super Mario Wonder. I can't wait.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to buy it tonight.
Yeah, you might play it with your wife. I'm assuming you and your wife are going to play.
Yeah, exactly. Couch co-op. And then you can do like one level, 10 minutes. You're good. You get your little fix. We're out. I live in New York, man. I don't need to traverse the city.
Yeah, bro.
I wouldn't mind web slinging through it, but you know.
I've been playing Star Wars. What is it? Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. That's been a lot of fun. Not big brain kind of game. You just go around and play these missions. Good times. You gotta solve a few puzzles, but they're the same Lego puzzles you always solve. You know, you gotta do the little.
There's got the 3 little rivets on top, so you put the other 3 rivet Lego on top of that one.
Very low level.
That's not the puzzles you have to solve.
Lots of smooth brain puzzles. It works.
Hell yeah! All right, so Spider-Man 2. So far, so good. I'm really enjoying it as well, but I'm at the beginning stages of the game so far. Friends, that'll be it for us. We're out of here. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Laters.
Incredible!